And that's what we sometimes see. There are avocados, grapefruits, oranges, some other things that are coming from Israel, and especially from the illegal settlements. And one other example can be the Dead Sea products. There is a company called Ahava that produces a lot of cosmetics from the Dead Sea, but what they do, they take the resources from the Palestinian territory. And at the same time, the Palestinians don't have access to the Dead Sea. If we look back at the map, I don't have it here, the Palestinians they should have a certain access to the Dead Sea, but in fact they don't. And in fact, there are Israeli companies that are using the resources of the Palestinians from there. So there is this consumer boycott that all of us can do, and then there is academic and cultural boycott, which is organized more in a university level and like theater levels, concerts levels, where there are people boycotting certain Israeli academicians or cultural groups coming to Europe, for example, or to US. The recent campaign was, and still is ongoing, about the theater that is from the settlement, from the illegal settlement, that is supposed to perform in London, and it's being boycotted by many famous people as well. And there's also a cultural boycott is to call on the artists, for example, Red Hot Chili Peppers, that are going to perform in Tel Aviv soon, is to tell them, don't go and perform in Israel, because in this way you're supporting the occupation. In this way you're helping Israel to whitewash its crimes. The same tactics were used in South Africa in their Part4 system to boycott. There was a big concert in Johannesburg, and many groups, many famous groups have boycotted that concert as an opposition to the Part4 system in South Africa. And then there's also something called divestment, and again it involves bigger companies that invest in Israel, and one of them, for example, is CAT, I think. It's called CAT. It's the machine that Israelis use to destroy the Palestinian houses, because there are a lot of house demolition in Palestinian territories. House demolition, especially in East Jerusalem, where it is supposed to be Palestinian. A lot of houses are demolished to create new houses only for Jews. So this tractor thing, I don't know what it's called by CAT, I think it's called CAT, C-A-T. They use a lot of these machines, so there is a big campaign to divest from specifically this company. And there are many more divestments. Norway, they are especially successful in that. Sweden as well. There is a big campaign in UK and US. In Lithuania, we don't have anything yet. I hope there's going to be a growing movement for solidarity with Palestine. So that's one of the things you can do, but most of all, the Palestinians that we have talked to, what they asked us to do is to tell their stories and to invite everybody to come and see by themselves the situation in Palestine. They just say, just please come and see by yourself what is there. We don't need your money, we don't need this and that. Just come and see by yourself. That's the message that most of the Palestinians would give to all of you. And thank you for your time. These are our contacts, and we can have questions now.
Angliškai dabar kažkaip komentarai.
Gali lietuviškai paskaičiuoti.
Čia dėl tų alyvų įdomus dalykas vyksta, kad kartais palestiniečių kultūra ne tiek boikotuoja, kaip perima. Dabar iš Izraelio tokia kampanija, kaip reklaminė produktinė, jie persėmė alyvų aliejų kaip savo tradiciją. Yra reklamos, kad čia senovinė izraeliečių tradicija yra alyvų aliejus gavyba ir čia pirkite tradicinį izraeliečių produktą. Tai kartais ne tai, kad tiesiog užgniaužiami palestiniečiai, tiesiog perima jau tas palikimas ir perštampama kaip izraeliečiai.
Viskas yra palestiniečių žinomas patiekalas, nes ir žodžiu yra šitas patiekalas ir mes kai buvom Jeruzalėje radom atvirukus, kuriuose buvo pavaizduotas falafelis ir parašyta National Israeli Food. Bet visi žino, kad tai yra palestiniečių ir arabų maistas iš tikrųjų ir taip pat aš girdėjau, kad vienoje iš paskutinių pasaulio produktų kažkokioj konferencijoje Izraelis pristatė falafelį kaip savo nacionalinį produktą. Tai yra tas palestiniečių identitetas, galima sakyti, vogiamas yra. Tas pats atsitiko su, aš negirdėjau, palestiniečių skara, kofija, balta ir juoda spalva. Atsirado Izraelio organizacijų, kurios gamina baltai mėlyną kofiją ir pristatė ją kaip Izraelio produktą vėlgi. Nors tai yra palestiniečių produktas nuo senų. Dar komentarų klausimų.
Aš noriu paklausti. Tame filmuke apie teatrą vienas vaikinukas minėjo, kad jis paleisdavo daug laiko šitas interneto kavinėse. Ir mes visi žinom, kad Egipto revoliucija ir Tuniso revoliucija didelį vaidmenį sužaidė internetas. Tai aš norėčiau paklausti, ar yra pas palestiniečius lengvas priėjimas prie interneto, ar jie naudojasi tam plačiai Twitteriu, Facebooku, ar yra toks bendravimas ir per ten vyksta?
In the Egyptian revolution, people have used Twitter and social media, Facebook, where the Palestinians have access to internet and they use the same methods as the Egyptians. Can I answer? Šiaip mes, kai kalbam apie Palestiną, iš tikrųjų tai yra vienas iš labiausiai dokumentuotų okupacijų. Labai yra daug informacijos. Palestiniečiai turi labai gerą priėjimą prie interneto kol kas ir labai sėkmingai naudoja. Labai daug informacijos yra internete. Twitteris naudojamas, ypatingai jeigu sekti penktadieniais, kiekvieną penktadienį būna mažiausiai 7-8 protesto akcijos visoje Palestinos teritorijoje. Nes būtent protestuoja prieš sienų statymą. Šiuo metu labai aktyviai jie protestuoja prieš, aš minėjau, bado, ne prieš, bet solidariai su tais įkalintais, kur badauja šiuo metu. Labai daug protesto akcijų. Ir praktiškai viskas yra dokumentuota, viską galima rasti Facebook'e, Twitter'e, nes visą laiką yra žmonės, kurie yra tenais. Bet kai man teko su izraeliečių organizacija dalytis kai kuriuose nelegalių kolonijų, tai mažiausiai 2-3 žmonės yra su kamerom, kad viską dokumentuoti ir dėti į programą. Iš tikrųjų labai, kai pradedi gilintis, labai daug informacijos. Ir jie naudoja Facebook.
Yra net ir tas palestiniečių internetinis toks kaip portalas žurnalistikos elektroninė intifada. Kur labai daug palestiniečių žurnalistų rankose.
Labai daug.
Usually they always give links. Palestinian or Israeli organization will give links to other sites. But to respond to that, I don't know what you said, but I think one of the main differences about the Egyptian revolution or Tunisian revolution, it was very clear where people stand. It was very clear, especially from people from Europe and the United States, that there is a regime that needs to be stepped down. So that was very clear, and came very big international pressure from Europe and the United States to act on these revolutions. But for Palestine, since we are so much short since high school at least, that the narrative, the Zionist narrative, is the main one. It's very difficult now to let's say de-brainwash people with that. So what we think, we have made different interviews about activists living there. One of them was saying it's he's from England. He said it's because of racism. That the way I don't agree with him on all the things, but on this part, it's part of the answer. The way we look at Palestinians being terrorists or not having the right to be there, then it makes a difference on the way we see this conflict. And it's presented as so much complicated that many people don't want to take action on that because it seems so complex. But in fact, it's one of the easiest conflict that one can study. And it's presented through Oslo agreements, Camp David agreements. So for the normal people, it's so complex, and it's reduced to religious conflicts. So it makes even more difficult to people to understand it. So they say, I was saying before that these Muslims and Jews they should just sit together and talk, and that's it. But it's not a religious issue. It's a very political issue, and it's a very easy political issue. So I think it distances people to take action on these factors.
I also think that a big problem is that the problems of Palestinians aren't highlighted. For example, if you go out in the streets in our city and ask someone about the conflict, all they're going to be able to mention about the Palestinians is the suicide bombings they've heard about, or well, I don't really know what else they could mention, but they don't know about the economic oppression, they don't know about the systematic racism. I think your initiative is very good because it just tells people about the problems that Palestinians have to deal with every day and all the violence they're facing. So,
yeah. So one of the things about the violence of Palestinians every day, I think that that's a good point to take, because now since Gaza, since the bombing of Gaza in 2008, 2009, we reduced the Palestinian liberation to Gaza, and we don't see anymore, but people don't know at all what's going on in everyday life in the West Bank. And this is so much violence every day. The violence, it's. I mean, we have been traveling a lot in developing countries. You see poverty, you see other forms of injustices. But to see the checkpoints, walls, the humiliations of Palestinians on the ground in front of you, you see the intimidations from these young Israeli soldiers. It's quite. You get very tense. It's quite scary.
Could I ask maybe about, I read yesterday that the situation with the hunger strikes is getting very tense, and Hamas, well, the unity government promised to break the truce if any Palestinians die from the hunger strike. Do you know if there's any kind of international response to it, or because I don't think there is, but maybe you're more. You know more?
There is no. I mean, that's not that I've read recently. I'm following very closely the hunger strike, because especially now, 72 days for two of them, in any day one of them can die. Because North Ireland, there was once upon a time they practiced also the hunger strike as a way to resist. And the guy, he died after 66 days. Now these two guys, they're 72 days. And yeah, I've also read it that it might start a new intifada, a new uprising. And I wouldn't be surprised, because I don't know. There are different news from everywhere.
So do you think this intifada, cultural intifada, is it effective? Is it more effective as opposed to violence those first two intifadas, is it effective in fighting against?
Honestly, no. It's a fair question that we also have asked to many Palestinian and international. And the funniest thing is the internationals were much more violent. I mean, when you see that, the Palestinians live that every day, they can control their emotions. But for any international activists going there and see what's going on, you come out really angry, instead of mind, you understand what suicide bombing is. You imagine the whole perspective, you see what's going on. So, and these internationals were saying that they don't lead anywhere. But for Palestinians, officials that we interviewed, the main thing is to exist is to resist. So as long as you exist, it's a form of resistance. Even if the Israeli administration policy is to make you survive, so that when you survive, when you strike for food, you don't strike for freedom. So that's the Israeli policy behind. That the Palestinians take it further. Existing, it's resisting. So having a life, enhance the cultural heritage of Palestinians, dancing, getting married, going to school, it's another form of resistance. And it won't go on like this for ages. We are at the break of this long cultural resistance. It's almost over. Nobody can stand like this for years.
Sometimes I give a reference. I don't know if it's a fair reference to give. Let's say Lithuania, and I did the same reference last time when I was talking about it. Let's say Lithuania, if we are attacked by Belarus, let's say, we imagine, won't you take your gun and go and fight for your land? And the Belarus comes with a big army and they start to occupy you, they start to put you in smaller ghettos, they build their own roads, they take over the economy, they do this and that. They transfer a lot of Belarusian people that build nice housing only for the Belarusians. Won't you take the gun and go fight for Lithuania, for your country? I think many would. And it would not be seen as we are terrorists. We're fighting for our land because this is our land. We are Lithuanians. This is my motherland. I will fight. But when the Palestinians fight for their land, where they've been living for a long, long time, it is seen as a terrorism. And I don't want to justify any of this civilian death and so on, but I think we have to question the narrative that we are given by the medias, where first they present Israel and Palestine as a conflict state, like it would be two equal sides fighting each other. What are they talking about? Israel is the fourth military power in the world. Palestinians, they only have stones, at best Molotov cocktails, and in Gaza Strip they have these little missiles that cost $50, whilst the Israeli missiles, they cost $50,000. It's just a reference. And it's a conflict between two equal states. No, it's not. It's the occupier and the occupied. And that's also what the girl was talking in the poem. So first there is this narrative, an Arab-Israeli conflict. No, it's the occupation of the Palestine by Israel. And then, as in any occupied nation, and this is again according to the international law and international agreements, any nation that is occupied has the right to resist by any means necessary. That's stated in the international law. So my personal opinion, Palestinians should resist and they should go. But the international opinion is that the Palestinians should resist non-violently, and that's what the Palestinians do now. They resist non-violently. But for me, personally, when I was there, I was having this feeling like many internationals. How can you stand this injustice? How can you dance and laugh and, I don't know, create paintings and do circus? How can you do that? And the Palestinians, to exist is to resist. That's what they do 95% of the cases. There's no really violent resistance in Palestine.
whether cultural resistance or popular resistance. They prefer to call it popular resistance. It doesn't oppose non-violent resistance. Doesn't mean pacific resistance. They don't call it non-violent resistance. They call it popular resistance because it includes everything. I remember having interviewed a priest in Bethlehem and a Christian priest, and he was saying that we all have the rights to defend ourselves, and I'm including what he was saying. I'm including the arts, the cultures, the economic boycott, academic boycotts, armed struggles, and so on, including armed struggles. So Palestinians don't condemn that. They don't condemn that. They say it's a part of the resistance. But what to do with the fourth military power in the world? They cannot just say we gotta fight against the fourth military power in the world. There have to be strategies on that. You cannot just go and fight. But the difference is now, compared to the 70s, 80s, and even 90s, the difference now, the European opinion changed drastically. Before it was pro-Israeli, and now the change has happened in the last 10 years.
Even in America, they also,
yeah,
the attitude has changed.
The attitude has completely changed. So what are we going to see? It's probably what we have seen decades ago about the South Apartheid in South Africa. Many millions of students, of young people in Europe and elsewhere, they rise up to be against the apartheid system by the boycott, BDA's campaign, and so on. So this is changing because also financial crisis, everything makes sense. It won't last long. Further, the third intifada is more international than we thought.
There's a very interesting example from Germany. We met a homeless guy who is protesting in Köln, in front of the cathedral. He's protesting against the occupation of Palestine. And you see this homeless guy, he doesn't have a house where to live, but he made a huge, a lot of posters, a lot of things. Then they ask him, why do you do that? And he says, German government has just supplied an Israeli with a submarine which cost $500 million, and they paid German government, they paid 2/3 of this submarine, $500 million. And I'm homeless because government doesn't have money for me. So of course I'm protesting, because they use the money not for the social reasons, not for the education, but for military, and not for the military of Germany, but for the military of Israel. And I think that's what Kamal was referring with, how also internationals will wake up, because our money, our taxpayer money, are used to create the occupation. Germany is still paying a lot of money as part of, after the Second World War, as the reparations for the Holocaust. And what this money is used for? To create another Holocaust.
A couple of years ago, the students from England, they decided to protest and boycott university because the taxes, the fees were quite high, and they found out why they were so high. Because part of this money goes to the military in Israel. So you can find many of these examples in France, in England, in probably Lithuania, and of course in Germany. So this occupation, why it's so big, this conflict? Because most of the European nations plus the United States are directly or indirectly involved in that. That's why it won't be, it will be big, this clash.
One more question, please. Considering that now Palestine looks like, cheese with holes where Palestinians live, do you think a two-state solution is possible, considering Israelis own most of the Palestinian land, or will there have to be a one-state solution where Palestinians are accepted into Israeli society?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you want to reply to that?
No, it's not possible. I don't think it's possible. Because you have 500,000 Israelis already living in the Palestinian territory. So what it creates, when we think of two countries being neighbors, having a wall, so there is a border. From this side there is Latvia, from this side Lithuania, let's say, and the border is clear. What happens in Palestine is exactly what you said, the cheese, the Swiss cheese, where there is actually no clear border. There are hills, and on the hills there are Israeli settlements, and down there are Palestinians. So they kind of create a three-dimensional thing, like when there is on top, on this part, there are Israelis, and on the bottom are Palestinians, because actually the settlements are also put very strategically on the hilltops. So you will have like a big thing looking like a fortress put there, and then the Palestinians are down there feeling small. It's also psychological. So because there are all these settlements and 500,000 Israelis living there, I don't think Israeli government will ever agree to remove them from the West Bank and to give the whole land to Palestinians. And if the settlements stay there, what it creates this so-called Bantustans, islands of Palestinian territories that have some kind of connection between each other, but that are not one state with one territory. Because for that to happen, Israel will have to remove 500,000 settlers.